Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. You know what has always surprised me? Since we were kids, we've been fed a picture of the world that feels like watching a short clip on fast forward. Everything banged. Everything flew apart. Everything cooled down. Life appeared. And you were born. It's presented as if there are no questions to be asked at all. Sure, the Big Bang, space, stars, planets, and then somehow life, evolution, monkeys, humans just appeared. Thanks. You can all leave now. But as you get older, you start to catch a disturbing detail. Matter is one thing, but life is something else entirely. A stone is matter. Water is matter. Even a star is just matter, albeit a very hot one. But DNA? DNA isn't just matter. It's an instruction, a code, a program. Yes, a bang is an event, but DNA is a system that knows what to do. Today, let's discuss this. I'm going to show you where the Big Bang Theory is genuinely strong, where it hits honest brick walls, and why the question of DNA is the biggest glitch in the official worldview. Because sure, you can make things go bang, but for a code, an instruction, and meaning to emerge from that bang, you need something more than just an explosion. Call it what you want. Intelligence, an algorithm, or a matrix. Let's dive in. Let's be honest first. If you listen to what we're taught in school, the picture is simple. There was nothing, then a bang. Then everything appeared. Billions of years later, you. It sounds spectacular, but it's a bit too Hollywood. In reality, the Big Bang Theory isn't about a bomb going off in space. It's about the idea that the entire universe was once in a super dense, super hot state. And then it started expanding and cooling. From that moment, our cosmic timeline began. And here, physics is truly on solid ground. Galaxies are flying apart. We can see that. The cosmic microwave background is the echo of an early, hot universe. The distribution of elements also generally fits the model. So how walls, iron, gas, and rocks appeared is explained quite decently. But then, the editing gets weird. On this stage, out of nowhere, we suddenly get the first molecules that know how to store information. Then, structures appear that can copy themselves. Then, this all turns into cells and then into living organisms that can actually think and ask questions. Wait, what the hell happened at the very beginning? And this is the point where the bait and switch happens. We get explanations for the birth of matter, but how the code of life appeared is usually blurred out with the phrase, "Well then life formed." Then is the favorite word used wherever logic ends. The explosion explains the stage, but it doesn't explain the script. It's like someone telling you, "We built a massive movie studio. We've got the sets, the lights, the cameras, the tech." And you ask, "What about the script, the actors, and the editing?" And they reply, "Oh, they just sort of came together by accident. They tried for 1 billion years." You're already laughing, right? That's roughly how part of the modern myth of life sounds. Imagine a printing house, a giant hall, thousands of boxes with letters, tons of paper, oceans of ink. Now imagine a grenade goes off in there. What happens after the explosion? Paper is scattered across the hall. Ink is smeared on the floor. Letters are shuffled in every direction. The walls are stained and riddled with holes. Chaos. Pure entropy. Now, the main question. Could the novel War and Peace accidentally appear as a result of a series of those explosions? Not just scraps of words, but a multi-volume text with characters, plot, and logic. Not just one paragraph, but an entire system of meaning. Even the most ardent proponent of randomness stops here, because chaos knows how to destroy structure, but it doesn't know how to create it. Now let's apply this to DNA. DNA isn't just a soup of molecules. It is a ruler upon which information is recorded. It has encoded how to assemble you, how to start you, how to maintain you, how to repair you, and how to pass you on. It's not just something reacting to something else. It is an instruction where the order, sequence, and context matter. Chemistry can provide the material, but for a code to appear, you need more than just a bunch of time. You need rules, an algorithm, and logic. This is where we hit the wall. Can the Big Bang explain the appearance of bricks? Yes. Can it explain the appearance of the house's blueprint and the purpose of why it's being built? Not yet. Let's break DNA down simply, without a lecture on biochemistry. Imagine a flash drive. It has a program on it. You insert it into a computer, and the program runs, executes commands, creates files, draws things, manages processes. The DNA in your cell is basically that flash drive. It contains the code for your eye color, the shape of your nose, your height, the characteristics of your nervous system, how to react to stress, even your predispositions to certain diseases. In other words, DNA is the assembly code for your avatar. What does this code do? 1. It stores information. It doesn't go anywhere for generations. 2. It copies itself in every new cell, in every division. The instruction is passed on. 3. It fixes errors. There are entire repair systems that mend the breakdowns. In short, DNA is text, an archive, a program, and an editor. Now let's honestly ask ourselves, what is easier, randomly assembling a stone, or randomly writing a functional computer program? A stone can appear a billion times over. It doesn't need to know how to be a stone. It just is. But a molecule that knows how to copy itself, how to store information, and how to trigger chemical reactions, that's a different league. That is a code. Now let's stay grounded. Don't go shouting that science knows nothing. That's not true. But claiming that everything has been explained is also a fairy tale. What have they actually managed to replicate in labs? They've created the building blocks of life. In famous experiments like Miller-Urey, scientists took simple gases, added energy, electrical discharges, and heat, and produced amino acids, the elements of proteins. The conclusion: organic molecules can appear naturally. And they've even created microcapsules that resemble cells. Some molecules assemble themselves into shells, forming these protocell microcapsules. They can hold other substances inside. Conclusion: nature knows how to build containers for life. They've also found molecules that resemble a transitional stage of RNA. RNA can both store information and participate in reactions. There is a hypothesis that an RNA world existed first, which later became more complex, leading to DNA plus proteins. Conclusion: there are hints of a possible path from chemistry to something more complex. But the main but is right here. No one has yet shown how, out of a dirty chemical soup, a molecule that can stably copy itself appears on its own, without a person in a lab coat, without fine-tuning, without a deliberate selection of conditions. This is the key boundary. It honestly hasn't been crossed yet. There are models, hypotheses, and sketches, but not a single experiment where we simply set up the conditions and bam, you have a molecule that copies itself and kicks off the life cycle. And that is exactly why the DNA question remains a hole in the script. Chemistry is not yet code. Matter is not yet meaning. When all arguments run out, the magic formula is usually invoked. Well, there was a lot of time. Over billions of years, anything could have happened. It sounds comforting, but let's try to bring this down to earth. Imagine a junkyard filled with old parts, circuit boards, wires, and scrap metal. For billions of years, the wind blows on it, rain falls, lightning strikes, and rocks fall. Question: after a billion years, do we expect to see a working laptop with an operating system in there, or just the same chaos, only in a different form? Time can rust, destroy, mix, and redistribute. But time does not replace architecture and algorithms. If you don't have assembly rules, if no one is throwing away the garbage and keeping what's needed, billions of years simply increase the number of chaotic states. They don't turn them into meaningful structures. This is why the phrase randomly but for a very long time is not an answer, but a beautiful excuse. It covers a hole where the honest answer sounds like this: we don't know how chemistry turned into code. Not yet. And that's okay. But since we've been left with a void, we have every right to ask our own questions and consider alternatives. To avoid being unfounded, let's run through the main versions proposed within classical science. Calmly, without mockery. Version A: primordial soup. a warm ocean, lightning, volcanoes, a chemical soup. Complex molecules gradually appear in it, followed by the first primitive living systems. It's beautiful. The image served as a myth for a whole century. But how exactly did the first self-replicating system appear from the soup? Why didn't it fall apart immediately? How did it manage to maintain its structure and sustain it? There is no answer, only generalities. Version B, the RNA world. They say RNA came first. It's simpler than DNA. It stores information and helps reactions. So it became the first step. The idea itself is logical. But then, the same problem arises. How exactly did RNA appear for the first time, and in a form capable of copying itself rather than just lying there in the soup? Version C, deep sea, black smokers, hot springs on the ocean floor. Heat, chemical gradients, energy, an ideal natural reactor. It looks great for a documentary. The physics and chemistry there are genuinely interesting, but they explain energy flows, not the appearance of code. Version D, panspermia. Life arrived from space. Spores of life were carried on meteorites, comets, or asteroids. On the level of why not, it's perfectly possible. But then we simply shift the question. How did the first self-replicating system appear there? Any official fork in the road leads us to the same question. Who wrote the first line of code? And here the Big Bang no longer helps. It's about the stage. We are talking about the script. Now let's turn on the reason you're even on this channel. If you set aside religious, mystical, and pseudoscientific fairy tales, you can formulate a thought carefully. Perhaps information is primary. Not matter, but information. Meaning that rules, algorithms, structures, and meaning exist first, and only then does the meat grow onto them. Atoms, molecules, cells. This is similar to how video games work. First, the game code is written, the rules, the physics, the behavior of characters, and only then are the graphics, models, and textures loaded onto it. In this logic, the Big Bang is just the moment the engine was launched. The system turned on, the timer started, and background processes began. But life is the moment when a layer of programs appears in the engine that works with feedback, learns, evolves, and at some point begins to perceive itself. So, the code wasn't a consequence of the explosion, it was the purpose of it. The deeper you look into DNA, the stronger the feeling. This is not just chemistry, it is someone's language. Perhaps the language of reality itself. And here many people ask, okay, let's say all this is a matrix, code, a simulation. What does that mean for me? How do I live now? This is where it gets interesting. If the world is just a random ejection of matter, then your life carries no meaning. You are a set of chemical reactions. All your feelings are just biochemistry. It's all going to end anyway, so don't sweat it. But if the world is coded, and life is not a mistake but a launched process, then the picture changes. It means your individuality is not accidental. Your character, talent, and inclinations are not garbage. They are part of the script. Your path is not just survived or didn't, but an experience through which the code gets to know itself. In such a picture, your choices matter, your focus matters, your energy matters. Because code doesn't exist abstractly. It manifests through you. And here, the Big Bang Theory and DNA cease to be a dry lecture and turn into a mirror. A logical question. If this is all code, am I also just a program? And can nothing be changed? This is the delicate part. There is a level that is essentially hard-coded. You were born at a specific time, with a specific body, with a certain nervous system, and a set of weaknesses and strengths. This is like the base configuration of a character in a game. But then another level turns on. Consciousness. Consciousness is what can change reactions, redirect attention, rewrite habits, expand the picture of the world, and change the script. So yes, there is code that launched you, but there is also the possibility of building new levels on top of it. And that's the whole point. If you believe you are just a byproduct of an explosion, you live like a random object. If you begin to perceive yourself as part of a complex system where information and consciousness are primary, you start to choose differently, relate to yourself differently, and look at the world differently. And this is exactly what the Matrix needs, for something to wake up within its rules that begins to perceive the game. I'm not asking you to throw away all your textbooks right now and sign up as a simulation truth seeker. I'm proposing something else. Stop pretending that the official story of everything exploded and then you appeared answers all the questions. It answers part of them, but it doesn't explain why meaning emerged in matter and who wrote the first line of code. If you feel that then life appeared is not enough for you, it means you have already stepped beyond the schoolbook picture. The rest is a personal choice. You can close your eyes and say, "It's easier for me this way, let it just be an explosion." Or you can continue to observe how the world strangely coincides with your thoughts, how events sometimes align too precisely, how life reacts to your state and focus, and how the code around you seems to respond to internal requests. And then, the Matrix theory stops being a movie and becomes a practice. Thank you for being with me on this channel. I wish you the best possible branch of reality. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.